I'm going to have Oscar and Jeremy here with us. Jeremy is an experienced software development manager with a strong background in leading high-performance teams to deliver innovative software solutions. Passion for technology and focus on agile methodologies, Jeremy is currently leading the supervisor and reconciler teams. Oscar is a fellow of the Alzemin. He has completed his PhD and is a skilled geostatistician and researcher with over 18 years experience. His experience includes a resource estimation, application of condition simulation, uniform conditioning, change of support, and nonlinear techniques within a range of different commodities and mineralization styles. Oscar has a strong theoretical background which combined with his working experience has made him sought after for customization, development, and presentation of geostatistical training course worldwide. And he is an avid softball player, I guess. I didn't know about that. But anyway, welcome, guys.
I'll kick in.
So it's going to be on the softball.
Yeah,
Go for it.
cheers. Thanks, Bruno. I'm just looking around the room. Everyone is looking a little tired. I think I saw someone asleep over here and head and hand in his hand, rubbing eyes. And of course, I got my jet-lagged friend over there, Oscar, who probably should be in bed right about now. So today's talk, I'm going to rush through this as quick as I can. I'm just giving you a brief update on where Supervisor's at the moment, where we're going. Oscar's going to talk to you a little bit about the interoperability. I do want to thank Mark. I've never heard the word favourite and supervisor in the same sentence. It just doesn't seem right, but let's talk because a lot of his ideas actually could possibly go into the product. Yes, so I'm going to skip by this, but yes, we're going to talk a little bit. My side is going to be about Supervisor, what we're doing. I'm not a geo, it's probably obvious. Yep, don't know anything. But the tagline for Supervisor, does anyone know it? I think it's something like developed by geologists for geologists, or built by geologists for geologists. So that kind of tells you where our ideas come from. I think out of maybe 100 bugs I see, I'd probably see maybe one idea for a feature. I'd like to flip it if I could, and honestly, you guys have the best ideas. We're not Microsoft. We're not going to take your ideas and just turf them in the bin. We put some scrutiny to them. Don't feel you need to have an idea fully fledged out either. Just give us the tagline, a bit of an idea. Don't say use AI. That's kind of a bit buzzwordy, but just give us something, and we have the experts in Datamine that can actually probably take your idea and turn it into something. We have a user feedback method inside the product. It's just hidden under one of the menus. I think T, wherever she is, there she is. She loves to talk about this stuff. So just talk, and then she can turn it into code speak, and I'll get one of the developers to work on it. All right. So what have we been doing? You're spending a lot of time in Supervisor, and by the end of the day, you're rubbing your eyes, and then your retinas are telling me it's time to get with the times. So we're just very simple. We're just putting a dark theme in. It's simple. Try to relax the eyes a bit. But you notice we have not changed the charts. Very simple reason. We think everyone will kill us if we touch them, right? However, it isn't hard for us to do it. So if you do think, you possibly could put a chart that's dark themed into a report, then look, feedback is more than welcome. What else? Rotated models, very simple. Just save you a bit of time. Rotates around the X and Y origin. Done, right? Easy. Something we miss, probably a bit of a gap fill. We're trying to, with Supervisor, everything seems to be intuitive. And then you go and click a couple of components and hit that magic overlay button and, hey, look at this. But not everything does it. So, John at Grand George over there, expert Supervisor user. Haven't seen him in about 10 years. So we were missing the GT curve. Obvious. Just make it so you can overlay it. Another one, you probably see if you use iSartist, you will know this is basic functionality. Cross plots. You want to be able to highlight a region of your scatter plot, see your samples in 3D space, filter out your samples in 3D space. Maybe you want to look at a box plot, find your standard deviation or your extreme outliers in 3D space, or on your histogram. All of this stuff we never had at all. There was nothing. You could highlight a region, it just did nothing. So we want to get more into the space of being able to interpret the data, look at the little outliers, find out where they exist, why they exist. So that will be coming along very shortly as well. In the short term, I probably want to address Supervisor 9, maybe. So yeah, how many of you are supervisor users? Hands up. Yep, I can't dodge that many rocks. Okay, so I know from Supervisor 8 to Supervisor 9, from your perspective, there probably wasn't much to see, right? And that was very much purposeful. We want to keep Supervisor the way that you're used to it, the way that the workflow works, the way the charts kind of work, the same across the versions. And that's part of the motto, right? Keep it simple. The thing though is we were hitting a bit of a wall, and you probably would have noticed that features started to slow down, releases started to slow down, and that was because the technology underneath was limiting us. So we made a decision, and that was to revamp the technology underneath and try and keep the user experience much the same. Now, although it was a significant effort, I might say, and it's going to lead us into the future a bit more. So we're going to, you might hear .NET version 8, the latest and greatest Microsoft thing. So although we did that and we went through, we had a internal private beta that's with our consultants. Then we had an open public beta, and that was with customers who actually wanted to trial Supervisor 9. The only true test of software, I guess, is when you deploy it to production. And lo and behold, we've had some issues, mainly around portability. And this is the strange one. So typical use case, I guess, someone works on a bit of the variography, packages it up, ships it off to a colleague opens the project, the data file's detached, as it should be, but all the variography's gone. So that kind of thing. Now, we're addressing them as fast as we can, and we have two goals. One is to deliver roadmap items, and one is to deliver quality functionality. Right? Quality. I want to make sure that for you guys, you're not waiting. So, for instance, okay, dark theme, yeah, great, right? Coming in 9.1. Don't let that feature hold me up. So, with something else like a bug. So we're gonna version things a little bit differently. So I'm going to be releasing a 9.0.4, which is a patch release in the next 2 weeks. That's going to address a few I won't go through all the problems, but just a few. But that won't be the only one. The uptake of 9 is quite slow. People are progressively turning to 9 more and more. I get some stats which is telling me. So I'm anticipating a 9.05, maybe even a 9.06. But the point, what I want to get at is I want these little releases, these patch releases, to fix the problems that are preventing you from actually moving to 9. I've heard a few people had to go back to 8, right? And that to me is a bit disappointing, but I get it. So going forward, we're going to move faster in terms of bug releases, right? And I do encourage you, please put tickets in, because when we do release it, you'll get notified. So you don't feel like you have to upgrade every single patch release. If you have a problem and it magically gets fixed with one of these versions, upgrade. If you don't, if it's not bothering you, wait until the next major release when there's a feature that you actually want. Okay? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Where is? I've got to go kick Oscar wherever he is. He's gone to sleep. Oh, there he is. Okay. You're standing. You're okay. All right. Come on. Cheers.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as Jeremy and Bruno mentioned, my name is Oscar Rondon. I'm a principal geostatistician with Datamine. I'm very pleased to be here again. Last year I was presenting a little bit of technical work about conditional simulation, geological uncertainty, and all that. This year is just a short presentation about an excellent product that we have, which is Studio RM Pro or Studio Pro. That is a bundle and combines Studio, iSatis Neo, and Supervisor. I was paying attention to the presentations, and I was really pleased to see few different things. Like, for instance, I mentioned talk about MIK, yeah, which I usually say in Supervisor is quite easy to get the indicator variance for MIK. As you know, if you are running an MIK model, we need to spend a lot of time selecting the thresholds and running the variance. It's something quite easy in Supervisor, right? So that's a really good product to have. But at the same time, Bosta was presenting something that is something we cannot do in Supervisor. So we need exactly iSatis Neo and the kind of work that we can do in iSatis Neo with all the workflow and all the batch file or the scripts and Python and all that. So it's something now you can see the value of all that. And as Mark mentioned, the macros now in Studio. Yeah. By the way, when I contact Mark to come and present, he asked me, say, "Are you sure you want me to go and present?" I say, "Absolutely, let's do it." Okay. So that's the kind, as Jeremy mentioned, that's the kind of feedback we want to go to, or we want to receive, right? So if we don't get that feedback, right, we cannot improve the product, and that's great. That's exactly what we need. But look, today is more about how can we use that bundle? How can we work with Supervisor, iSatis Neo, and Studio? You are all familiar with the three products, and as I mentioned before, you can see, for instance, that we may have the need to use, for instance, Supervisor, because it's quite easy. If you're not familiar with coding, if you are not familiar with Python, look, copy and paste is so easy, and we can do it in Supervisor. You are all familiar with that. If you have 20 domains, 5 attributes, and you need to run your variograms, just copy and paste, redo your variograms, update the project, off you go, right? As I said before, if you have something more difficult, like Bosta presented, iSatis is the way to go. If you have all your macros and run all that, you can use Studio RM. But look, probably you don't know, but there is a little nice button in Studio that you can, from Studio, open your Supervisor project, change something that you need to update, change some parameters, rerun your variogram, close the project, and you are done. So you can do that exactly inside Studio. If you are running, for instance, something more complex like the advanced resource estimation in Studio, you can run your variograms, right? Save your variograms in Supervisor, and you can get your variogram straight from Studio. You only need to say or to mention where or indicate where the Supervisor Studio is, and then you can run your variograms, import that into Studio, and off you go. Okay? Something similar can be done, for instance, with Supervisor and Neo. In Neo, you can import your variograms. You will see soon, but it has been a long time for iSatis to be able or to be compatible with Datamine, so you can always import all these Datamine files into iSatis. There is something new now that probably the old users remember, It was so difficult to work with Succel or Suc blocks in iSatis before. Now it's quite easy. Yeah, so it's something iSatis Neo can handle easily, and that's what I was about to mention. You can see there is a little icon there with Supervisor that if you are more familiar with variography in Supervisor and you want to run something in iSatis, you can get your variograms, import that straight into iSatis Neo, and run your process. Okay, so this is more of a bigger picture. Anthony mentioned something about this, but what I just mentioned is a little part of the interoperability between 3 different products. What is coming is, that's the bigger picture, is MindTrust, where we will have all these products, as Anthony mentioned. We will have iSatis Neo, iSatis Pi, Studio, RM, and Supervisor fetching data or taking data from MindTrust, right? So that's what's coming. Look, last but not least, I would like to acknowledge in this presentation the help of my colleagues, Jeremy, T, which is over there, and David, who helped me to put together this presentation. That's it.
So Oscar and Jeremy, it's great to see that we can import things directly on Supervisor now in iSatis Neo and Studio RM. It seems like Studio RM and iSatis Neo, we can, or like the purpose of the software is to do estimation, both of them. Is there a plan to actually combine them into a single software to do geostat and estimation, or are we going to keep them separate? If we keep them separate, which one should we use and when?
I'm not aware of plans to combine them, right? So we need to be aware that we have different users. For instance, we have people using iSatis, yeah, or we have people using Supervisor and Vulkan, for instance. Yeah? So this one here is a bundle to facilitate the work if you are using those 2 products, right? So I usually say that it's not good to have what I call a Frankenstein. You cannot put iSatis, Supervisor, and Studio all together. It's not going to be good, in my opinion. So some users are going to be happy, some others are not. So I'm not the decision maker here, but I don't see any plans to put together the 3 products. The idea of what I mentioned before is exactly along your comments. So it depends on what you are doing, right? So I usually say that if you are a resource geo, right, in Kalgoorlie with a deadline, you are not familiar with Python, Supervisor is the way to go. You just run your EDA, just run your radiogram, go to Studio, and run your model, right? So if you are a high-level user, or you want to do something really advanced and you have the facility to use, iSatis Neo.
I noticed in T's talk that for one of the upcoming RM releases, it's going to support Python scripting. How is that going to be interoperable with iSatis? Could you have effectively one Jupyter notebook that interacts with both Studio RM in its scripting functionality and also iSatis and get the best of both worlds?
I'm not familiar with that big, but I guess it was, who mentioned that? It was Joe?
I think that's probably a question that we can get with Anthony. Probably that's, I think, your question as well. I think all related to the future and how the landscape of the products are going to look like. I don't think there's any plan necessarily to be put them together or apart. I think maybe we just need to sit with the industry and understand what works well. If that's the goal, why not? I think Anthony is quite excited about the vision, and I think that's why he shared briefly on the video. But I would take note. I think that's a good question. There's a good question there as well, and I know there's not only yours. I think when he's back in town, probably arriving soon, we can convey the message and perhaps give you something more clear.